Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to be showing you my very long-lasting makeup routine that looks natural on the skin. If you guys know me, you know that I love a good natural, like skin's shining through kind of makeup look, but I need it to stay on all day, and typically natural makeup looks just aren't that long-lasting on the skin because you're using textures that maybe are a little more creamy, and that doesn't work for me. So I figured out the way to layer your products and the techniques needed to ensure that your makeup's going to last a long time, even when you want a natural finish. So let's get started. So the first thing you have to do is understand what skin type you have, because that's going to dictate the type of products you're going to use to prep your skin. For me, my skin type is a combination. So I get oily in my T-zone, but then the perimeters of my face gets kind of dry. So then I understand that because this area gets shiny, I need to do something to prevent it from getting shiny throughout the day. And if my skin here is a little bit more dehydrated, so I can either focus more moisturizer there to prime my skin before makeup, or I just avoid those areas when I am using something that's more mattifying or more blurring in the areas where I get shiny. So the perimeters of my face doesn't feel too dehydrated at the moment, so I'm not going to do anything special to that area. I'm just going to leave it alone. I already did my normal skincare routine, but in the areas where I tend to get shiny and oily throughout the day, I am going to use this One Size Secure the Blur primer. This is a primer that I'll use when I really need my makeup to stay on a long time because it works really well, but I don't think it's needed for every day. So I took a pea-sized amount and I just split it between my two fingers, and then I'm just going to blend this over the areas where I get shiny. So for me, that's this front part of my cheeks and definitely around my nose. My nose gets so shiny throughout the day. I usually have to like take a tissue and pat my nose because otherwise it just looks like a grease ball. So I'm just putting that there. I can take what's left and just put it on my chin. But this is just going to blur my skin, and it almost creates like a magnet for my makeup to stick onto. And it's just going to ensure that my makeup lays on really nicely and keeps my skin looking smooth and blurred. I also really like the Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin Blurring Balm Powder. That's one that I use all the time. This one I feel like is maybe a little bit more high performance than that. And there's also other primers from One Size that I think are great for different skin types. Now that my skin is all primed, I'm gonna be doing some underpainting today. So I'm gonna be using the Haus Labs Precision Sculpt Shaping Balm. And I'm just going to draw this onto the areas where I want to contour a little and add a bit of a shadow. The reason why I'm choosing to do like the underpainting technique today is because I find that you use way less product when you sculpt and add blush to your cheeks before adding your coverage products. And when it comes to having your makeup last a long time, I don't think more is more. I just feel like you have to be very intentional with what you're doing and how you're doing it. So I'm using all of my cream products in the beginning of this routine, because we all know that cream and then layered with powder on top is going to last all day. So that is kind of the theme for today. And by using a cream contour first, it just immediately adds shape and dimension back to my face. And that allows me to see like where I need a highlight, where I want to add my blush, and you're just kind of assessing your face. Now we're moving on to blush. I'm going to be using the Rhode Pocket Blush in the shade Piggy. I'm just picking up a little with my brush. I think I picked up a little too much, but that's okay. I'm just gonna split it between my two cheeks like this. And the good thing about doing your blush and bronzer before concealer is also, so if you accidentally pick up a little too much blush or you get carried away and you blend it a little too far on your face, you can actually clean it up with your concealer afterwards. I love the shade Piggy because the flush that it gives my skin just looks so real. It's a nice neutral pink on me, so it just works with all kinds of eyeshadow looks, whatever you're wearing. Now that we have the blush and bronzer on, I'm gonna go in with a thin layer of foundation. So today I'm using the Dior Forever Skinwear Matte Foundation. It says matte, but it's really more of a satin finish, I would say, because there is no shine, but there's almost like a natural glow to the skin, so it prevents you from looking super flat. And that's my problem with a lot of matte foundations, is that they just make your skin look really flat. So I just put a tiny amount on the back of my hand, and I'm just going to take the brush that I'm using with the foundation, and I'm just kind of working in a little bit of the product into my brush, and then I'm going to stipple this on my face in any areas where I want to add some coverage, and also just around the blush and the bronzer. So again, if you maybe took the blush or bronzer a little too far and you want to clean it up, this is the time to do it. This is what's going to give you that very natural finish. You're just using thin layers of products to add coverage where you want it. And after you do this step, I just find that my makeup looks so natural. It's so perfectly blended on the skin. And it's just basically one very thin layer that's addressing your skin concerns. Now we're moving on to concealer. And the first thing I'm going to do is take my liquid concealer. The one I'm using today is the Tarte Shape Tape Creamy Concealer. And I'm just gonna add a tiny bit right under my eyes like this. And if you want, you can also take this concealer around your nose or on your chin or any other areas that you really want to add coverage to. For me, because I've already added, a medium coverage foundation, I don't feel like I need it, but I do want to cover up my under eye circles because they can be quite dark and they make me look tired. So I just like to add a thin layer around my eyes, and then I'm gonna blend out this side as well. And then now I'm going to take my concealer pencil and I'm going to use this to pinpoint any little areas that I need to cover up. I have an old breakout mark right here. I feel like I could talk about the pinpoint concealing technique for hours if I wanted to, because it's what I used to cover up my acne marks when I was struggling with my skin. And I feel like a lot of people will immediately turn to full coverage foundations or just foundations that are heavier on the skin, just because then you can, cover everything up all at once. But unless your acne is super, super severe and, you're in a rush or something and you just need something to quickly cover everything up, then I understand that is probably the best way to go. But if you want a very natural finish and if you have time to spend using a concealer pencil to just kind of fill in the areas that need the coverage and you avoid the areas of your skin that actually don't need that much coverage, the result is just so much more natural. Luckily, my skin is relatively clear now, so I don't really struggle with this too much anymore. But back when I had, new breakouts every day, I still would use this technique because maybe the areas like here on my jaw, I just don't really break out there too much. Normally for me, it's on my forehead or like the tops of my cheeks. I would just use concealer where I needed it, like under my eyes, around my nose, just to hide any redness. But then in terms of the spots, I would just use a high coverage concealer just in those areas where I needed it, and the rest of my skin could shine through, and overall the look is just way more undetectable on the skin. Sometimes I hate using the term natural makeup because, like, what is even natural makeup? What is natural to me is maybe not natural to you, but I think maybe undetectable makeup is a better way to say it. But yeah, just in case you're wondering, like, oh, how do I do this technique? But I have acne marks or active breakouts right now, like how do you do the same technique? I say you can still follow this technique fully and just spend a little bit more time with your concealer pencil to cover up the areas that you need to cover up. You don't even need to use a concealer pencil. Any kind of high coverage concealer, just use it either with your finger, like dab a little bit of the concealer and then dab it on to your face, because before I discovered concealer pencils, that was basically what I was doing too. I would maybe use a small eyeshadow brush, and then I loved the NARS Soft Matte Concealer Pots. They have so many different shades. Now that we have all the creams done on the face, I'm going to set everything with a setting spray before I set it with powder. And it's kind of the same idea, like you use something creamy or wet first to set your face, and then you use a setting powder on top to set that down, and that really just locks everything in. So I'm using the Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin Liquid Blurring Balm. And then I'm going to spritz my face. There are so many setting sprays that I love. I love the Urban Decay All-Nighter Setting Spray. The Kosas one is pretty good too. MAC Fix Plus, that's a great one. Those are the ones that come to mind now, but right now I'm just using this one and it works really well. I'm gonna take this powder brush and I'm just going to pick up some of this powder, tap off the excess because you really don't need too much. And I'm just going to set all the areas where I want to keep matte throughout the day and I don't want any shine. And for me, that is pretty much my entire face, the front part of my cheeks, my nose, my eyelids, and definitely the center of my forehead. And then with whatever's left on the brush, I'm going to gently tap where I put the blush and the contour. So now back to layering. Now that we have the base set with some translucent powder, I'm gonna take a powder bronzer. The one I'm using today has a little bit of a glow to it just because I like a little bit more of a glowy finish on the skin, but you can use a matte bronzer if you prefer that kind of look. look as well. You don't even really need something super pigmented. I just think a nice thin layer of a powder bronzer on top of a cream bronzer or a cream contour just really helps to lock everything in. Whatever's left, I just like to put on my eyelids and also my chin. And then I'm gonna go in with a powder blush. I'm also using the Hourglass Ambient Lighting powders. I'm just gonna pick up a little bit of this and then tap this on top of my cheekbones. I just love the blushy look that I have now. I am going to add a highlight, but I'm going to do that at the very end. So for now, I'm going to move on to the brows. For the brows, I'd say there's really no tips or tricks from me for the brows. If you have especially oily brows, I would recommend powdering your brow area before using whatever brow products you are going to use, because that way you can get rid of some of the oil that's going to come through on your brows. And obviously I'm still going for a very natural look, so I am just lightly shading in my brows just to help enhance the shape a little bit more. Now we're moving on to the eye makeup. Again, it's the same technique. I'm going to be using a liquid eyeshadow. You can always use a cream eyeshadow, the ones that are in a pot that are kind of creamy, or an eyeshadow stick, just to create a nice base on your eyes. I am just using this liquid one from Lisa Eldridge. I just love the shades in her Liquid Silk formula. They're very skin-like shades that look like real shadows on real skin tones. And they're just so perfect for creating that even base for my eyeshadow to go on top of. If you want to, you can just leave your eyes here, but I'm going to take it a little bit further with this eyeshadow quad from Tom Ford. This is the Eye Color Quad in Evening Attire. I'm just gonna take this taupey brown shade right here, and I am just going to run this across my eyelids, and this will help to reinforce that liquid eyeshadow a little bit. Not that the liquid eyeshadow actually needs any help with setting down, but I promise you, layering a little bit of a powder on top of a cream will always just make it last longer. Now I'm taking a small eyeshadow brush, and I'm gonna go into this burgundy brown shade right here, and I am just going to smudge this along my lash line, just focusing in the outer half of my eye, so I'm not really bringing it all the way in. This is just going to help create a little bit more of a cat eye. These eyeshadows from Tom Ford are super spendy and so expensive. And I have to tell you guys that I got this in PR, so I did not buy this. But I do have an eyeshadow quad from Tom Ford that I bought with my own money, and I use it all the time because the sparkles in the Tom Ford palettes are just beautiful. They're so sparkly and sparse. It doesn't sound that appealing, but I promise you it just creates the most glittering, like starlit effect on the eyes. To be honest with you, I almost lost track of what we were doing here. We were doing a natural makeup look, and I did something a little more smoky on my eyes. Let's just ignore that. But I think it's okay, because once I add my mascara, it's going to just help define my eyes anyway. Okay, now I am just curling my eyelashes. After curling your lashes, if you feel like you can skip mascara, you totally feel free to skip mascara. I just like having a little bit more definition for my lashes because they are pretty short, and I just find that it really helps to open up my eyes and makes me look way more awake. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do a light coat of this Heroine Make Mascara, the Lash Hype one. I've been using this every day, and guys, there is no mascara that I like more than this right now, which is a really crazy statement to say, but just looks like you have a lot of options when using this mascara. You can do a very natural lash look where you just lengthen and darken your lashes a little bit, kind of like this, or you can add one more coat focusing on the ends of your lashes, and this is what you can do. So now that the eyes are all done, I am going to move on to the lips. So today for the lips, I want to go for a Nina Park inspired lip. So I'm going to first define my lips with a lip liner. This is the Lisa Eldridge Sculpt and Shade Lip Pencil in 0N. My best tip for recreating Nina Park's lip technique is to really blend out the edges and to not have a sharp line. It just creates this like shadowy, blurred effect on the lips. Like, oh my god, like look at my top lip right now. People are saying that it looks like she's giving everyone chocolate milk mustaches. And then if that's what you call a chocolate milk mustache, I want it. Now I'm going in with this Violette Bisou Balm in the shade Rose Latte. And I'm just going to run this in the center of my lips, just like that. And it just makes my lips look a little bit more flushed, but more defined at the same time. And I feel like it goes with this look so well. So this is the finished look. This is my very long-lasting natural makeup look. And I know, like I said in the video, there's so many definitions of natural, And to me, this is natural because I'm just really enhancing the natural features of my face, but I am not going ham about it, you know what I mean? I hope that came across, and I hope this video wasn't too rambly for you. But yeah, I'm obsessed with this look. I do this kind of look every time I have to go to an event or I have like a special dinner to attend, because in person, the finish is just so skin-like, but you still look really perfected, and it comes across in photos, in videos, and just in person. I feel like it looks really good. I just realized I forgot to add highlighter, so I'm going to quickly just add it to the high points of my cheeks. It just gives that skin-like effect to the face. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any video requests, and I will speak to you guys in my next video. Bye!